Hello learners of class 12. Welcome to the wonderful world of English language classroom. Learners, in the first episode of the first lesson titled as the last lesson, we did reading, understanding of the text, then we also did some comprehension tasks based on the reading of the text in multiple choice question form, then we did some vocabulary. Learners, in this episode we will continue the first lesson. It appears in the textbook, noticing form and writing. Noticing form is what? What do we notice as form of a language? So, we will discuss that and we will do some activities in order to learn some grammatical forms, that is form. So, before we move on to the lesson, let me introduce our learner here. I am Meghanathan from the Department of Education and Languages in CRT. With me is Devyani, a class 12 student, and she will be working with you to do the activities. Devyani, how do you feel?
I'm feeling good.
Okay. Oh, noticing form. What is noticing form?
It's the text which appears in our notebooks.
So that's not the form, no, that's the text.
So
what do you notice as form in a text? Okay, let me say we are sitting here. So it's a text. We sit here to speak to the learners. Is also a text. What is the form in that? I said we are sitting here first. Then I also said we sit here. So what is the difference between we are sitting and we sit here?
It's the grammar difference.
Oh yeah, that's what. When we notice a form, actually we notice the grammatical function, the usage of it, and how it is used. I said we are sitting here, then I said we sit here. So that's a difference. So we continue to sit here, then we sit here generally. So as a habit or regular activity. This is form. Let's not get into that now seriously. Learners, we would like to refresh your memory of the last episode of the lesson, the story of the lesson, the last lesson. And we will be reading out, telling you the summary alternatively so that you recall the summary. Then we will move on to notice form, how the lesson uses past perfect in context. That is the form. Come on, Devyani, you may start, then we will continue this one.
Here is the subtext of the story, the last lesson. The narrator of the story, Franz, started for school very late on that day. He was worried because their French teacher, Mr. Hamel, would question the class on participles. As he passed the town hall, he saw a crowd in front of the bulletin board. Last 2 years, he noticed a lot of bulletins as France was losing the war against the Germans. On seeing France moving fast, someone told him not to hurry as there was plenty of time. As he reached the school, he noticed an uneasy calm instead of the general usual bustle of closing desks, lessons, repetitions. He opened the class door expecting Mr. Hamel to scold him, but he politely told him to go to his place. Franz also noticed some strange behaviors and saw village elders were sitting on the back bench. The teacher, Mr. Hamel, wore his beautiful green coat, frilled shirt and silk cap, which he generally wore on special occasions on inspection day and Sundays. Everybody looked sad. Hamel told them that it was the last lesson, they should be attentive. Franz realized that the bulletin in the town hall was on this only. Though Franz was not serious about learning French in Mr. Hamel's class, he now felt sad and was shocked as the Germans would take over. The teacher Hamel told Franz that he won't scold him anymore. Mr. Hamel taught them grammar, writing, then some chanting practices for learning pronunciation. Ba, be, bi, bo, boo. The village elders who sat on the back started crying on seeing Mr. Hamel's emotion. Then the church clock struck 12, followed by the trumpets of Prussians who were returning from drills. Hamel now wrote on the blackboard, Vive la France, and said, School is dismissed. You may go. Vive la France. Long live France.
Devyani, thank you for that good reading of the summary. Learners, that was the summary of the lesson, the last lesson. So, we understood the effect of how someone losing his or her language in his own territory, in his own country. It's a very sad thing, very bad thing. There are many countries of the world, many communities of the world, they feel the same even today. So, learners, let me take you to the next level, that today's lesson is noticing form, that is past perfect form. Before we move on to discuss and learn the past perfect form, let me read out the objectives of the lesson. Devyani and learners, at the end of this lesson, we will be able to understand time and tense, use past and past perfect tenses in context. Having used in natural language, real life situations, we will discover the forms, past tense and past perfect forms, and use them in speech and writing appropriately. Learners, these are our objectives. We will learn to use past and past perfect tense in context and discover the forms. Devyani, this is what the book has. So, let us illustrate from a sentence which is there in the textbook. Okay. Here is the sentence. Mr. Hamel had said that she would question us on participles. Mr. Hamel had said he would question us on participles. So, Devyani, the writer did not say Mr. Hamel said he would question us on participles. The writer has written said, Mr. Hamel had said he would question us on past participles. Why is it?
Because it's in the past.
So it's, but I'm saying, so okay, it's in the past, fine. But say instead of said, why had said? Okay, don't worry. That's what we are going to learn today. Then let me read the sentence again, learners. Mr. Hamel had said that he would question. There are two actions in the past. He had said something, then he and he said he would question. So he would question and he had said. Okay, there are two actions. Just remember that. Okay, before we move on to that, come on, let me ask you to notice some sentences, read and notice some forms in the sentences. Come on, Devyani will read out, listen to her, and you also read it on the screen and notice the form there, the words in bold. Just notice it. We will come back to listen to that. Devyani, go ahead.
I got up at 7 a.m. yesterday. I went for morning walk for about 40 minutes yesterday. I went to the market to buy some vegetables. I read the newspaper for some time. I talked to my brother in the evening at about 6:30 p.m. I wanted to visit my friend but could not as I was busy with my work. Last week I told my friends that I would visit them. Last year I visited Mumbai. It was a great experience. I was the captain of our school hockey team when I was in class 9th. I lived in Bangalore during 2002-2004.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Devyani. Learners, notice the verbs there. I got up, I went, I read, I talked to my brother, I wanted to. Last week I told my friend. Last year I visited Mumbai. I was the captain and I lived in Bangalore. Okay, when did the action take place in all this?
It's in the past.
In the past.
And he wanted to, and yeah, it's all
in the past. Learners, this is past tense. We know very well. Last evening, yesterday, last minute, last year, centuries ago, we use past tense. Fine. This is we know very well. Come on, let me test you with some activities which appear on your screen, and Devyani will respond to my questions. There will be 3 options for each sentence. You will have to pick up the correct one.
Okay.
And let me tell you, all of them are in past tense. My teacher asks or asked us to complete the work yesterday.
My teacher asked us to complete the work yesterday.
Fine. My sister went to play the whole evening yesterday.
My sister went to play the whole evening yesterday.
Fine. We played cricket against our neighborhood school last week.
We played cricket against our neighborhood school last week.
Okay. We defeated them with a huge difference.
We defeated them with huge difference.
Where are you in the morning today?
Where were you in the morning today?
Fine. How old were you or how old are you when you were or when you are in class 2?
How old were you when you were in class 2?
I wrote the examination last month.
I wrote the examination last month.
My brother who got the first rank is now studying in the university.
My brother who got the first rank is now studying the university.
Fine. We do not have so many social media 20 years ago as we have many today.
We did not have so many social media 20 years ago as we have many.
My father studies in a village school and went to the best university later.
My father studied in a village school and went to the best university later.
Fine. Thank you, Devyani, for that good reading. Learners, you must have noticed the past tense form. Yesterday, last week, in the morning, the actions which took place in the past. We simply say in past tense. That's what my father went to the university, he got first rank, we played against, we defeated the neighborhood school. Fine. Now, I am also going to show you something to notice, something else. This action also has taken place in the past. Come on, learners, we have seen past tense, now we will be seeing past perfect tense. Come on, let me request again Devyani to read the 4-5 sentences which are with you on the screen. Come on.
Our teacher had told us to submit assignment, but he forgot it. Rahul met his friend at the station as he had promised. Sunita had finished her work and went to play. When I reached the station, the train had already left. I finished the work the teacher had already left. He wrote answer to the question. The bell had already rung. The police officer saw them violating the traffic before they had reached the point. I had promised to help her, but I could not do it. When Gandhiji had called for action, the people of this country supported him.
Fine. We have seen some sentences in which there are 2 actions in the past. Devyani, let me ask you the first sentence. Our teacher had told us to submit assignments, but he forgot it. Teacher asked something and he forgot it. There are 2 actions.
Yes.
So, teacher had told us to submit the assignments, he forgot it. So, which one he did first?
He had told us.
So, if there are 2 actions in the past, we generally use for the first action past perfect.
Okay.
And the second action past. So, let me read out, learners, whatever Devyani has read out. You please notice the words in bold. Our teacher had told us to submit the assignments, but he forgot it. Rahul met his friend at the station as he had promised. Sunita had finished her work and went to play. When I reached the station, the train had already left. When I finished the work, the teacher had already left. He wrote answer to the last question. The bell had already rung. The police saw them violating the traffic rules before they had reached the point. I had promised to help her, but I could not. When Gandhiji had called for action, the people of this country supported him. Come on, learners, look at the past perfect and past tense. Had plus third form of the verb, had told, had promised, had finished, had left, had reached, had promised, had called. Also notice the past form used in the sentences. Divyani, I am going to throw at you somewhat serious, difficult challenge. Okay. So, let's test your grammatical skills, what we have learned from whatever we have discussed, otherwise also last 11 years of learning English language. And learners, come on, check your this one. Here are some tasks for you where you will have to use past as well as past perfect. So, remember the first action past perfect, second later action past. Okay. Sentence 1, the school assembly became or had become quiet well before the headmaster reached or had reached. Come on, make out.
The school assembly had become quiet well before the headmaster reached.
Fine, well done, well done. So, you were able to make out the first action in past perfect, second action in past. When I reached, had reached the station, the train had arrived or arrived.
When I reached the station, the train had arrived.
Fine. The train had already arrived, then you reached it.
Yes.
Fine. Then when I saw or had seen him, he moved or had moved out of the hotel.
When I saw him, he had moved out of the hotel.
Fine. As you saw him, he had already moved. Fine. Very good. Then I had noticed the difference before they told or they had told me.
I had noticed the difference before they told me.
Fine. So, you are able to see it before they tell you. Fine.
Yes.
Fine. All right. Next sentence. When I had entered the house. My brother had gone to play.
When I entered the house, my brother had gone to play.
Fine. The last one, when our captain asked or had asked us to exercise, many of us had started or start doing it. Come on.
When our captain asked the team to exercise, many of us had started doing it.
Fine. All right. They knew that he would be asking. Come on, learners. There are two actions in the past. The first action we use past perfect. The second action we use past. The classic example we always give is when I reached the station, the train had already left. When I went to the school, the bell had already rang. When I reached the school. So, learners, this you need to notice in form as it appears on the screen. He had told me beforehand. You may ask a question, can I use past perfect only in a sentence? So, here are some examples for you. He had told me beforehand, means before something else happened.
Yes.
It had happened before I joined. So, there are two ways we can say. So, an action which will be followed by an action in the past, we will do that. It appears on your screen with an example. When I reached the station, the train had already left. Learners, notice it, which is the first action, which one is the later action. For the earlier action, we use past perfect, the later action we use past. So, learners, read the lesson again. You will notice the use of past perfect. Mr. Hamel had asked us. I had noticed lot of bulletins being displayed. So, this was followed by another action. Learners, this is how you will use past perfect in context. Let me give you a task today when you go back, not now, when you go back home, learners at home or in school, take up your newspaper, read a paragraph or an article or news item, try to underline past tense and past perfect tense and notice it how and why they have used. Learners, we have come to the end of this lesson. Let me tell you something about learning grammar. Let me also make it very clear, grammar book will not teach you grammar. It is the other means you read, listen to, use language, then go to the grammar book. And that is what we nowadays have a lot of workbooks, there are a lot of activities. This book has a lot of activities under its QR code. You can see it in the book, and when you decode the QR code, lot of additional activities. One of them is past perfect, this particular thing, noticing form. So, but why we are saying it form? Because there is something called meaning. So, when I say we are sitting here, we are doing this lesson, you actually feel the meaning that, oh, something is happening. So, you are not noticing it, it is we are doing is present continuous, that is noticing the form. So, when we learn a language, this two have to come together, then your language use is fine, effective. Let me stop it there. Thank you, Devyani. Thank you, learners, for this lesson, having participated actively, and we hope that you have learned past perfect and past tense well. So, we will see you in the next episode. Till then, thank you very much. Keep yourself in good spirits and be safe.